Ah.
Here we go. Well, it's good evening here from the studios and Radio FM 88 Australia. Tonight's guest is actually from Australia, across the border in New South Wales, and we've got Andrina to thank for that. The two girls were happened to be on a journey in Egypt, and so they created a tremendous bond as sisters. So, or sisters, I think the terminology is. Anyway, so good morning. There you go. She's out of the gate. So there you go. Well, right at the very top there, none other than my co-host Andrina from all the way from Dorset.
Thank you very much. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream. And today it's the 16th of January 2025. Swiftly moving through January. So it's with great pleasure that we have Sali McIntyre as the guest today, as our guest. So welcome, Sali, and it's lovely to see you again.
Yes, hi. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Have you got our three monkeys picture, Jeffrey? It's a good start to the morning.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I was blessed to go to Egypt. I left on the 29th of September, and I went on an amazing journey in Egypt, which I won't forget for a long time.
I don't think any one of us will forget that trip for a long time.
Anyway, Sally was one of my lovely friends in the trip. So there's the three of us. We were sat in the museum, the Egyptian museum that was newly opened. So, we were just having a bit of fun there, as you do. Anyway, so Sally and I formed a bond. So did, like we did with many others. So, and when I was unwell, because I picked up pneumonia over there for some reason, Sally was a great help in helping me up and down steps and holding on to her arms when I was flagging behind and all sorts of things. So thank you for your help, Sally.
Oh,
it was greatly appreciated. Anyway, without further ado, you're a lady of many talents, or mistress, should I say. And I know your title was Womb Medicine, Mystery and Mayhem. So I thought, well, that's an interesting title. So I'd like to know where the mayhem comes in the womb medicine.
Good question, because I nearly contacted you and said, could we just take that mayhem out of the title? Because when I looked up what mayhem means, it means I was just thinking about mischief, but it can actually be quite. It kept on talking about violence, acts of violence, and then I'm thinking, well, because we do like the images of the feminine as being sweet and sugary and nice, but we also know that the feminine can be quite the other way, and that the womb really can cause mayhem in a woman's body. So even though I just didn't even mean to say that, somehow came through. So I'm really curious as to where this exploration of mayhem comes from, actually, because when I redid it in a newsletter I was writing, I put womb medicine, mystery and magic, which is much more.
Yeah, I think I prefer that one.
Yeah, I know. So,
we're all in for a bit of magic.
But magic, anyway. Mayhem, it's all about the swing, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway,
you can't have one without the other. Yeah,
that's right. So, anyway, you live a very holistic way of life, and I know that you're a certified yoga teacher, childbirth educator, midwife. You've been with midwife. It's coming out midwife. Womb massage. What have I written down here? I can't read my own writing anyway. And Yoni steam facilitator. So, and you're an author of womb medicine. So let's start at the beginning. You were obviously born in Australia, and you put in your bio that you were a rebellious one of a rebellious teenager.
Yeah.
So do you want to start from there?
Okay, then. Because when I was writing that bio, and I'm thinking, because it's always about how do you explain yourself, where you've come from, what you've done, what your ego identifies with. And I'm turning 70 this year.
You're only a babe.
Pardon?
You're only a babe.
Which means I've lived 7 decades. So then I started to look back and think about the decades of my life, and that first 10 years is childhood. The next 10 years is when the rebellious teenager came in, quite young. And it was the first time I ever got a glimpse that there was another world outside the one that I grew up in, like a middle-class upbringing in Hobart, Tasmania. And I was so thrilled by the concept of a counterculture and another way of thinking, and all of the language back then, the alternate society and turning on, tuning in and dropping out. That to me, that was so thrilling. And I then decided I didn't want to finish school. I didn't want to. My parents obviously worked really hard to give me a private school education, and all I wanted to do was drop out and run away. And at one point, my girlfriend and I tried to run away. We got to Flinders Street Station before the parents found us and dragged us home again. But from then it was just like I was just always looking and interested in consciousness. And my first, the first Bibles, and I know I'm not the only one whose Bibles were Autobiography of a Yogi and Handbook to Higher Consciousness and Survival into the 21st Century. Those books which were so key in giving me another way of looking at the world. And I was always somehow drawn to being involved in birth. I don't even know where that came from, but it's been throughout all the decades from my 20s. This birth has, played very predominantly in there. And I'm pretty sure it was when I found a copy of a book which you might have heard of. It's called Birth Without Violence. And it's a book written about the birth from a baby's point of view, like a baby being born
Really?
into, like bright lights and being whacked on the bum and
Yeah.
From going from a really warm environment into bright lights, cold, strangers. And I was just horrified to my core by these images. And I didn't even know at the time, but it was like I made a vow and I said, my babies will never go through this. This was before I was even thinking about babies. And I started to work for a home birth doctor in Melbourne, Dr. John Stevenson, who was, he attended women at home with women who had agoraphobia. So I was his receptionist. So I would go to births with him, if I was there during the day. And that was where my introduction to birth and midwifery came. And he offered to teach me what he knew as a lay midwife. But at the time I chose to go through the system. And that journey of going through the system, back then you had to become a nurse and then you did your midwifery after that. I got halfway through the nursing degree, and instead of finishing that nursing degree, I met my husband, got pregnant and had a baby all in the same year. and had my first home birth, and then went on to have 3 more home births. So the next decades were all about being the earth mother and bringing up the kids, and loved being a mother, loved being pregnant, loved breastfeeding. And then I began to, as the kids started to get older, I started to teach prenatal yoga. And, well, first of all, I taught normal yoga, then prenatal yoga, all the way up, always thinking that I'd let that midwifery dream go. And the more decades went past, it was like, I've left it too late now. I'm never going to be able to manage the study and the maths and the science and all of that. And eventually I went to a midwifery conference in Philadelphia where all the luminaries of the birth world were there, like Ina May Gaskin and Michelle O'Donnell and all the fabulous midwives from the kind of the 60s, these women who they're just these magnificent women. They had big voices and big boobs and long grey hair, and and they're also very political. It's just like, the world needs more midwives, and I was like, yes, the world needs more midwives, and I'm going to be one. I kind of heard the call to arms and rallied, and so I went back to do my midwifery education in New Zealand when I was 52. And my mother told me I was going to be an old hag by the time I finished.
Oh, lovely.
But so I did finish that midwifery degree. I don't know what decade we're up to now, and tried very hard to fit into the system without a whole lot of success, and have kind of moved out more into my own independent birth education now. We've got this beautiful centre in Murwillumbah where we have yoga classes and workshops and a lot of different facilities for pregnant women and postpartum women, also women trying to conceive. So it's and along the way, I missed out the decade when I was a womb massage practitioner. I learnt from Rosita Arbigo and all the amazing women from that lineage about how to massage the womb. And Yoni steaming was a part of that, and when I learnt about Yoni steaming, I had never heard of it, and never ever heard of it. And I was absolutely gobsmacked that, how could I not know about this, with all the reading and involvement with women that I'd had. And I just, so anyway, and I like to learn. I'm a very avid student. So I set about to do the research and find out about Yoni steaming, which is why I wrote my book. So I wrote this book in my own research and in my own looking to other countries and see where it's come from and why it went underground for so long. And then after the book came the cards. So I picked a card for myself before, and it was chamomile tea.
All right.
And then came the journal. So that about takes us up to, I don't know what decade we're up to now. Does that answer you?
In a nutshell. Because I know I'd not heard of Yoni, whatever. What was it called? Steaming. Steaming. And I think it was a good few years ago, and I spoke to somebody. She said, "Oh, it'd be good for you to do this Yoni steaming," and so she gave me a link for Yoni pearls or something. But I never followed it through, and that was the first I'd ever heard about it. And really, I don't know how many people know about this, but it's not a widely known thing. I don't think people are becoming more aware of the Yoni and steaming and different things, but I don't think earlier on it was widely known, was it?
It wasn't known at all, because it's not like the kind of the circles I moved in were traditional. And understanding of it is that it went underground. It's a traditional women's practice that is not going to make anybody any money.
Say no more.
So it's definitely going to empower women who practice yoni steaming and the philosophy that surrounds it, if you like. So in that kind of era when women's knowledge and wisdom and of herbs and traditional midwifery, when that was all lost, yoni steaming was lost along with it. And my understanding, when the divine feminine made that awakening, that arising in 2012, was when all of this information and all these traditional grassroots practices came back into the light. And I'm sure in many countries women have always practiced, like the Western countries might not have known about it, but in those traditional countries they quite possibly would have just used it, kept on using it because it works, and they have nothing else. Like the person who I learned from, Rosita Arvigo, she would always say that women, if they presented with any kind of gynecological issue or womb problem or menstruation problem, they would be asked, well, have you done your yoni steam? It's like something that everyone did. And because of course, in that whole era of knowledge being lost and medicine taking over, a lot of those countries, they wanted to be like the Western people, So they thought their traditional practices were, which is such a shame. Yeah, it is a shame. Very shameful. So.
Yeah, excuse me. So, obviously, I remember we talked about this in Egypt, and I can't remember what we said now, but I said like this, it's not well known as I see it in the Western world. And is this something that you would say was like a routine that everybody should be doing every so often, like as a self-care? Because we're not taught these sort of things, are we, in the past?
No, we're definitely not taught this sort of thing. And I'd like to just say, because I think yoni steaming by itself it's not ever supposed to be a cure-all for all things, and if you establish it as part of a lifestyle and a way of being that honors your body, and because I've been around this for at least a decade now, and my understanding of it has shifted a little bit.
Right.
Like I tend to get very passionate about new things, and when I'm in the height of one of my passions, I want everyone to do it, and I think that it's the be all and end all for everything. And then it's just like, well, not everyone is going to want to do this.
No.
Maybe there's something about getting older and wiser.
Yeah.
I think for women who have had, say, for example, menstrual problems, or they've had gynecological issues that Western medicine hasn't helped, and they are feeling a bit desperate, then yoni steaming is a very gentle, soothing, safe, if it's practiced correctly, method that, again, it doesn't cost a lot. You don't have to have too much fancy equipment. You can certainly get the fancy equipment if you want it. You need herbs that you've either got growing in your garden or that you can get from the health food shop, or there's many places you can get herbs from. You need clean water. You either need the Yoni steam stool or the Yoni steam throne, or you can simply kneel over a pot of steaming herbs. Because maybe for somebody who's listening now and they haven't heard of Yoni steaming, it is the practice of a woman or a man. Men can do it, not nearly as much, Jeffrey, but we're dealing with Yoni steaming, so we're talking about women right now. It's kneeling or squatting or sitting over a pot of steaming water to which, as you can see in that picture, to which herbs have been added. And it's a beautiful sacred ritual where you pick the plants with honor, blessing the plants for their healing properties. You bless the water, you put your prayers and intentions into the water while you're simmering the herbs. And it's a really nice thing to do for another woman, but you can certainly do it yourself, obviously. And then you sit for as long as the steam keeps its temperature. I am not, because there are very specific Yoni steam practices for specific ailments, like for someone who has got a chronic ailment like endometriosis or PCOS. The method that I widely teach and suggest is probably not going to give those kind of results. Does that make sense? Like I really, my current kind of passion is to make it accessible and cheap. And because women are so busy, especially women who've got kids, if you make it really complicated, they're just not going to do it, you know. So I've just written the revised copy of this book. You know, it's like this first book sold out, the first print run sold out. So we've now got the second copy coming, and in it I've put a whole lot more information about how to do it without your Yoni steam throne, how to, as I said, kneel over the herbs, and also, like, if you don't have the herbs, just use steam. You know, like again, just really making it accessible so that women will do it. Because the other thing about Yoni steaming is you don't actually have to have a physical ailment to practice it. You know, there's a lot of talk in our world, and certainly in the circles that I move in, and all the stuff that I read and absorb, and it's all about connecting to the divine feminine and accessing the sacred feminine within you. And sometimes those words just drive me nuts. It's like, what does that actually mean, you know?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about that today, and for me, what it means, and this is obviously only my take on it, today's take anyway, is that we've, you know, if we're in a female body, or I'm in a female body, and I chose to be a female in this lifetime, there is the masculine aspect of myself as well as the feminine aspect of myself. And there are particular qualities which universally are associated with the feminine, and that's receptive, nurturing, cooling. What else would be qualities of the feminine? You know, it's very much about looking after other people, giving, it being kind of inward, resting. Whereas my understanding of the masculine and the it's like the yin yang. The yang is active and out there in the world and doing and conquering, and in our world, and I'm absolutely in this picture as well, I actually am quite yang a lot of the time, because I'm just out there doing, you know, always looking for the next thing. And I actually find it hard to be yin, to rest, to be quiet, you know. So I think that's what a practice like Yoni steaming, and by the way, Yoni means sacred space in the Sanskrit language. Like Yoni steaming is also called vaginal steaming, pelvic steaming, V steaming, vajayjay steaming. There's a whole lot of other
Another language.
and obviously many other women as well like to use that word Yoni because it means sacred space, and it also means the divine passage. So it's encompasses the womb, the uterine tubes, the cervix, the vagina, the vulva. It's like the whole womb space, really. So I think I can't remember where I was going with that. Oh yeah, the why I use the word Yoni, and it's a way of, because I mean, to me, like this, I did not grow up knowing this stuff. You know, like
No.
I did not grow up honoring my womb or knowing that my menstrual cycle was something really powerful to be respected, to be honored, and to understand the different seasons of the menstrual cycle, to understand that every week I was different according to where I was at in my menstrual cycle, and we have this knowledge that we can use our menstrual cycle to manifest what we want in this world, because the womb, we have the physical womb, and then we have this incredible metaphysical aspect of the womb who is a creator. So, but not just the creator of babies, she's also the creator of all that inspiration and the ideas and the creative endeavors that we all, you know, we all create, you know. And every time we bleed, we have the opportunity to let go of what ideas, manifestations didn't work the you know, for the period cycle, and start again. So the day one of the menstrual cycle is your winter, and then you go through autumn, and then you go through spring, then summer, and then autumn, and it goes round and round and round. And that is such beautiful, powerful knowledge. And again, I certainly didn't know that when I was growing up. And I like to think of a whole lot of stuff that my mother never told me, because nobody told her either.
No.
We just didn't know this, and I have great empathy for that rebellious teenager, actually. Yeah.
What about because I mentioned to you Yoni pearls, I think it was.
I haven't. I've heard of them, but I haven't had any experience of them.
No.
Yeah. So
yeah, I couldn't tell you anymore, and I don't even know if I looked them up or no at the time. But
I did.
like
I do remember reading something not so positive about them. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, I would imagine they're like a suppository or something. That similar sort of. I got no idea, so I don't know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah. But you know, and that's. I mean, women are so looking for answers, and it is such a capitalist society that it's mind-boggling what you can buy out there now, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally.
So let's go back to births, because I don't know, like in Australia, what the birthing for midwives and ladies are, because I know I had the most horrendous birth. You know, it was touch and go and all sorts of trauma. And I was thinking what you said about that book, because when it happened to me, it was failed forceps a few times, and my son had a scar and he had stitches right down on the middle of his forehead where they couldn't get him out. And so say the day before, the x-ray said, fine, no problem at all. And yet, you know, I had blood transfusion, you name it, I had it. And I'd gone to natural birth classes. I wasn't even going to have gas. Jesus Christ, I had everything in the book and more. So looking at that, they still lay women, or that I'm aware of, when you see pictures or movies or whatever, laying on their backs. They don't have them standing up, the natural force of gravity. What is it like in Australia? Have they moved on at all in any way, shape or form, or are we still in the dark ages?
Totally, we've moved on from there. Like the only time often you see women lying on their backs to have a baby is on the movies. Like, it still amazes me how women are still depicted, or if in a hospital setting they have a need to have an epidural and they're lying on their back because that's how you need to be. You can be supported upright, but active birth is pretty much, I'd like to say, encouraged, standard. Women themselves want to stand up. They want to move. They understand that if they want to be in charge of their birth, they can't be lying on their back, because they're actually going against gravity when they're lying on their back. And so I think we definitely have moved on, and I think we're at a point where the birth is become very medicalized, and we have a choice whether we choose to go with that system or whether we choose a more natural way of being in your own surroundings with the people you love around you. And because obviously I had all my 4 babies at home, and many, certainly in the area where I live, there are a lot of home births. There's a lot of free births in this area. And I don't know, this is such a big topic. It's such a huge topic. The community that I'm a part of, and particularly the birth community, this year we will have the 4th, it's called the Birth Wellness Festival, that we have put on as a way of educating women to give them options for birth, with that classic, you don't know what you don't know until someone shows you or explains it to you. And I'm really, really clear, those days of me saying that system is bad, and this system is good, hopefully are behind me. I think it's about choice. And if you give a woman and her family all of the information, and she understands the physiology of birth, which is a very beautiful, mysterious, fragile procedure that operates really well when a woman is calm and when she's undisturbed, when she's unobserved, when she feels safe in her own body with the people around you. And we're talking about a normal, healthy woman. But not everyone is going to choose that. No. And we've gone to hopefully great lengths with our festival to not, the system's bad, obstetricians are bad, because that conversation certainly does exist, a lot. And our take on it is doctors and obstetricians are amazing at what they do, and when we need them to save lives of mothers and babies. But for the most part, birth is a normal event in a healthy woman's reproductive life. She actually doesn't need other people to help her. And we have been, as women, we've been conditioned to think that we can't birth, so therefore we need someone to help us. Or again, it's such a big kind of psychological topic, and it's all woven in. That loss of power and that loss of understanding one's body and that loss of trusting one's body and trusting oneself to know what's best for you. And that includes whether you're going to have your baby in the hospital, or you're going to have your baby at home, or whether you're going to do a Yoni steam, or whether you're going to do yoga, or whatever it is. Everyone's journey is so unique, and who are we to say what is better, or what is good, or what is right, but women, they really, we share stories. And certainly where I live in this area of Northern Rivers, we have such a beautiful community, and we have many of the towns have women's circles, and women come together to share space, to drink cups of tea or cacao or plant medicine or whatever it is, and share stories. And this is such a beautiful way for us to, and because we've all, this sounds kind of heavy, but I believe that as our journey through life in this body, we all have damage, and we're all wounded, and we all have to unpack all of the things that have happened to us, and let go of the trauma, and find out who the real person is behind all of the conditioning and who everyone else told you they thought you should be, or that I mean, it's obviously, that's the lifetime's journey, isn't it?
Well, isn't it just?
and it's not like it ever stops either.
Yeah. What about, so when ladies are about to give birth or before, and is the steaming part of a package to say, this is good, this will certainly help before you have the birth?
Yes, it is, and this is pretty new, certainly in my understanding, in my own education, because when I learned about Yoni steaming, we were told, do not steam when you're pregnant. That was like the absolute contraindication, And so when I heard about people starting to use steaming for labour preparation, I was like, oh my God, and I felt personally really a little bit, I don't know if threaten's the right word, but it's like, oh my God, if I start teaching women this and something happens to them, what's going to happen? And I was really nervous, and until I did my own reading and research, and I actually pulled myself up and said, so what actually are you afraid of happening? Like when you steam to prepare for birth, it's very mild steam. And it's never done as a promise that it's going to bring birth on. It's never suggested that it's going to make you have the most wonderful orgasmic birth, that you could possibly have. It's a tool, and it's actually it's not rocket science. Like Yoni steaming increases circulation. It produces lubrication, so it's nourishing the tissues of the yoni, and it's relaxing the mama to be. So if a woman is, and so the, what's the word, the caveat, is that a word, when a woman steams from 38 weeks pregnant onwards, so she doesn't steam up until 38 weeks. When the baby is fully formed and able to survive in the womb, outside of the womb, then steaming is deemed to be safe. And so a woman who is looking at induction, because in our present society in Australia, 1 in 3 women are induced, and once they get to 41 weeks and 6 days in our present system, they will be offered a medical induction. So if a woman, say, doesn't want to go that route and she thinks, okay, well, I'll try Yoni steaming, like if she does get induced, then chances are then the induction may lead to further medical interventions which involve drugs, harmful things to the mother and baby,
Yeah.
as opposed to some gentle steam with rose petals or lavender or the different herbs that you use. So I sort of calmed myself down then. And again, and then when I started looking again, like Rosita, who never told us about steaming before birth, she shared more information about how they do it in the Mayan culture as well. And in the cultures where they use steam in the temezcal to help, prepare the woman for birth. But in Czechoslovakia, there was a woman who was a doula, and she learnt Yoni steaming, and she introduced it to the midwives in the hospitals there, and they were so impressed that they now use it with the blessings of the system and the doctors. And I believe it's like there's 30 hospitals in Czech Republic where they use Yoni steaming.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it?
Oh. So you see times are changing, aren't they? Like more and more people are aware that there are natural things that you can do, and you don't have to go down, the medical route, because obviously it's harmful to you and your body with all the side effects and all the different things, isn't it? So, but yeah, no, that's amazing. So,
and then of course, postpartum is after birth is when we have the most knowledge and the most understanding of Yoni steaming being practiced in just about every culture, probably every culture in the world, including northern countries, Scandinavian countries. But the steaming for after the baby's born to soothe, to bring the uterus back into her pre-pregnancy position, to flush out the lochia and all the different tissue fibers after birth, so it actually minimizes the bleeding. It's really good for swelling and bruising and stitches, and again, a really beautiful practice for the mama to because when a woman when she gives birth, she's afterwards she's empty, she's cold. She's been through this incredible amazing and sometimes terribly traumatic and painful birth, and women are sometimes shattered, sometimes blissful and shattered, or I'm kind of choosing my words here because
of course.
But for somebody, and I think the figures are 1 in 4 women in Australia have suffered from birth trauma. So that's another kind of statistic which is really alarming when it comes to birth and birth choices. And so the Yoni steaming is a way to bring the mama back into herself, to bring the pieces of her, even in the most amazing birth. Like the Maya people say that the woman journeys to the stars to bring her baby in.
That's lovely, eh?
Isn't it? Yeah. So she has to come back. Yeah, see, there's Ishchal. She's the goddess of women. She's the Maya goddess who Rosita Avigo has brought to the Western world. She was like the forgotten. She was like the forgotten goddess until Rosita discovered her, and so she's down. As you can see, her symbols are the snake, the rabbit. She's the goddess of childbirth and women and water, bodies of water. Every time you see a rainbow or dewdrops, that's Ishchal. And midwives would certainly pray to her for help in birth and put statues of her under the birthing bed as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's amazing the different traditions around these things and all around the world. Like, it's such a pick and mix of what people do, and like ceremony and singing, and there's some wonderful things that are happening more and more people are aware of the sacred things that happen, and they either chant like some like even dying, like people I've seen African women sat all singing, and and all of these things are so special and so magical, whether you're coming into the world or you're going out, greater thing. But going back to the steaming, so that must be lovely for the baby. It must be like having a little sauna coming up, mustn't it?
Do you mean before birth?
Yeah.
Well, the way my understanding was that you do a steam, and the steam is so mild that if your baby's head was exposed to the steam, it wouldn't hurt him.
No.
But while you're steaming, the baby is still well inside the womb. So the cervix hasn't even begun to open. But if the mama is feeling calm and soothed, then the baby's going to feel calm and soothed. If it regulates her nervous system, then baby's going to feel safe, and it's just like, I'm being born into a world that's safe. Here I come.
Watch out, world.
Watch out, world.
And then you get slapped on the ass, and you think, oh my God, what's happened?
I know. Because I talk about this a lot, because I really do believe, and I'm not the only one, I know, that babies being born now at this time of our evolution or history, they really know what they're coming in for, and they're the leaders, and they're pretty incredible little souls. So my feeling is that and obviously this isn't always the case, but they my understanding is that they come in awake, fully conscious, and they stay awake. So when babies are born in trauma, then that soul has to start unpacking that trauma from day one. And so I think that fabulous saying, which I love, which is peace on earth begins with birth, is that if you birth a generation of babies who come in gently with love and welcome, and they're fed and they're cuddled and they're I think that leads to a much kinder human being.
And I think like more and more, like, I mean, I don't know what it's like birthing over in the UK now. I've got no idea, because I'm sort of out of touch with that, that side of things. And I don't know anybody around me currently that's gone through birth or to know what happens over here now. But obviously, when you get communities together and more women coming together, then they support each other more. And and then they, you'll all say, well, you can do this and you can do that. There's more choices, and it's giving people the choice that you can do things differently. You don't have to do the old norm way that we're aware of, because that's the old ways now, isn't it? So it's a whole new world.
Hey, when Andrina told us about this story we're going to have, obviously Facebook, Google, Siri, Alexa, they pick up on words, whether it's written or in verbal. And the next thing that came up on Facebook was the fact of about cutting the cord and what to do with the placenta. And so it's just a fascinating story about keeping the cord between the mother and the child for at least 20 minutes. And so more of the blood, as well as all the ingredients and all that stuff that's within the placenta, gets transferred between the mother and the child. And so child gathers up all this immune resilience. Is that something? Is that correct on that part?
Absolutely, it's correct. And it's I haven't worked in the hospital for a long time, but my understanding is it's standard practice now to let the cord stop pulsing before it is cut. And there are also people who choose to wait much longer than that, and there are people who choose to have a lotus birth, which is when the cord is not cut at all, and the cord withers up and detaches from baby usually about 4 or 5 days. So with the understanding that the placenta is the baby's like twin soul, because the placenta and the baby are born from, made from the same cells. So, yeah.
Right. We had a men's group, and we had this Mary elder came in, and he was the midwife to his wife, and they had their 3 kids, and it was the last child that we brought the story up. And so they're in a very distant community from any major hospital. So he gave birth. He did the delivery for their wife. And that was a home birth. They did it in the bath. All the kids were available, and then when they took the placenta, he chopped half of it up, and he put it in the fridge for memory. And then as a family, they each had a piece of the placenta, and then the other half they put it in the garden, and they put a lemon tree there. And he said the lemon tree just produces the most amazing bloody lemons.
I can imagine.
But the ritual was the fact that all of them now were participants in their youngest child. They all participated in the midwifery of the delivery, but also now had the enzymes and all that stuff of their sister, I think it was, or either brother or sister, and so now they had the fighting enzymes of their young sibling. It was a fascinating story. I mean, us guys were just bloody gobsmacked.
That's a beautiful story. Yeah.
So, did people when they do home births, what do they do with the placenta? They put it in the garden, or what do they do with it? Really rich with nutrients, isn't it?
Yeah. There is a range of practices. Many people bury the placenta and plant a tree over it. Some people make it into placenta capsules, and that is quite a common. I don't know if it's common, but it's a well-known practice around here, certainly, where the placenta is taken by somebody who this is what they do. They freeze dry the placenta, dehydrate it, and grind it up into a powder, which is then put into capsules and delivered back to the mother, like in a really quick turnover. It's like within 36 hours. And the mother takes the placenta capsules as a way of balancing out her hormones and to help with that kind of drop of hormones that happens on day 4 after she's given birth. And the idea is that you can keep these placenta capsules all the way through to menopause to help you with that transition from one phase of life into another. So, and then other people eat a little piece of it, like the story you told, and and you've probably heard the stories of people making spaghetti bolognese out of the placenta, or
you might boggles.
Making placenta smoothies so that you disguise the taste of the placenta. So, but it's done in the theme of honouring the placenta and honouring it as a source of life force and sustenance. And
sure. Now, I was in the meat industry for years, and sometimes the farmers would send in cows that were actually pregnant. And so when they were opened up and they had the slink of the calf, that was absolutely worth thousands and thousands of dollars, and it was wrapped up pretty quickly and sent to
Oh wow.
European laboratories because of the pure blood.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Interesting, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like for some,
Can
the
you,
thought
can you hear
of
the
doing
frogs in the background? Is your
What,
frogs?
here or yours?
Mine or
no,
yours?
I can't hear them. Ooze.
We've certainly got lots here.
Oh, okay, it's your face. Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Um,
Judy? Karen?
yeah, no, I was going to say is not everybody's cup of tea to do that with the placenta.
Definitely not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, so
Have it with your fish and chips, mate.
I've not heard of it being made into capsules, but then I'm, the elder brigade, so it's not, all of that is not in my awareness now. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Well, we're coming near the end. So is there anything else you'd like to share, or where you're going with all these things? Is there anything else you'd like to achieve or be doing that you haven't done yet?
Oh yeah.
Well, how's that? Can I ask you? Do you do and you do home births? I mean, do you actually go out to? I mean, you got some fantastic crystal clear creeks in your area. Do you actually do births in those creeks, or maybe spas,
I'm
pools,
not
or
I'm not a
pools?
I'm not a home birth midwife.
Oh, right. Is that what that is it?
This is a long conversation that would take us off on quite a tangent, Jeffrey. So I don't know.
I'll live with you, Andrea. Yeah.
All right. Or maybe we'll savor that for another time. Obviously, I'm not aware of anybody doing it in any of the waters over here, but yeah. So who knows? But obviously, you've got the sunshine and you've got clearer waters, and so all these little things make quite a difference, eh?
Yeah. They used, or I don't know if they still do, birth in the Black Sea in Russia.
Right.
There's a beautiful video about women birthing in the warm seawater with dolphins around them. It's very stunning. But back to what I would like to do. I would like to, in this next decade, write more, speak more. I'm coming to London in May to the Mind Body Spirit Festival. So I look forward to seeing you then.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've got a book, the Womb Medicine, the Birth Edition book, which is just kind of waiting to fly out into the world. And I'm also working on online presentations at the moment as well. So, yeah.
Well, fabulous. So, yeah, no, I've really enjoyed. Oh, yeah. So, did you want to share?
I thought people would be interested in that because everyone loves Miriam. So we did a Yoni steam workshop with Miriam as part of her documentary Impossibly Australian. She came to our retreat centre and we shared the wisdom of the Yoni with her, and she was very, very receptive and moved. And if anyone has seen that show, it's quite amusing and heartfelt actually. Have you seen it, Jeffrey?
What was the show?
It's called Impossibly Australian.
Right.
It's a documentary where she features different parts of Australia, and she's always interviewing Australian people to see what they're up to, and so.
Is that on free to air or is that on a streaming service?
I think it is now, or certainly it was on Netflix or ABC iView. You can certainly get on there. Yeah, but maybe Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, right. Well, it's been an absolute delight to see you.
Likewise.
So, somebody's written. Hang on.
Oh, look, I was going to say I vouch for the placenta having very magic properties. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Carol. No. I got a bar up at the bottom. I can't read all the writing. I can't get rid of this. What does it
wow,
say?
look at that. I love
Oh,
that.
that's, yeah.
The word uterus forms the basis of the word utter, to speak. Wow, I did not know that.
Well, there you go. You learn something every
Fabulous.
day.
I
Right?
love that. Oh my God, we could do a whole podcast on that, on speaking to the womb and listening to the womb, and yeah.
Well, we certainly got food for thought for a future podcast, hey?
Yeah.
Well, it's lovely to see you, and honestly, I've really enjoyed this. I've learned
Likewise.
things that I've not experienced or known about before. Just so much content in there, and like for people tuning in or listening in afterwards, there's plenty of food for thought. And the word woman is really woman. Yeah, right. Anyway, so thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sally. It's been an absolute
Thanks,
delight.
Andrina. Thanks, Jeffrey.
I'll see you in May. And
Yes, look forward to it.
thank you, Jeffrey. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. And same time, same place next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.